Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out today to the Moore Community Remembrance Ceremony and the Moore Medical Center groundbreaking. My name is David Whitaker, and I have the distinct pleasure of serving as the President and CEO of Norman Regional Health System. We are very excited to be able to host today's ceremony to remember the events of a year ago. Our lives and our community were changed the moment that the tornado touched the ground. So we are gathered to remember those that lost their lives, to honor the commitment, the heart, and the courage of this community. We will all feel the emotions, the pain, and the sorrow of this day, each in our own way. But I challenge you to this. Our pledge to each other should be, we will never forget. We're also gathered to celebrate a new beginning for Moore Medical Center. We break ground today for the replacement of our cherished Moore Medical Center right there. We are proud to partner with the City of Moore to host this remembrance in conjunction with our new facility groundbreaking. Now I would like to introduce the City of Moore Council Member, Mr. Mark Ham. Councilman Ham will lead us in a moment of silence to honor the lives lost 1 year ago. Mark?
Thank you and good morning. The City of Moore would like to thank Norman Regional for hosting this ceremony today. We've worked closely with Norman Regional and other business partners over the past 12 months to regroup, rebuild, and recover from the events of May 20th, 2013. The tornado took lives, injured hundreds, and destroyed homes, schools, and businesses. On April 23, 1995, Evangelist Billy Graham delivered a message to those gathered for the Oklahoma Bombing Memorial Prayer Service. I remember listening to him as he delivered the message. One line that has always stood out in my mind, as Dr. Graham had been visiting with emergency responders, victims, and those who had lost loved ones, he said, "Our tears mingle with yours." Those words were true then, and they're still true today. For those of you who lost your home, photographs, or small things that had great sentimental value, and those of you who lost something even more precious, a loved one, please know that our tears mingle with yours. Today, if you were to go over to Northeast 27th and Pole Road and stand underneath the underpass and look at the pillars that support the bridge, you would see the scars that are left there. After all of these years, the scars are still there. A dear friend of mine once told me that there's no timeline on grieving. Your wounds are deep and the hurt is so real. I understand that the tears will never go away. However, it's my prayer that as time passes, the tears will be replaced with laughter as you sit with family and friends and tell stories of the one that you love so much. I cannot relate to what you're feeling. I want to tell you a quick story of a man who can. And his name was Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. He lost his first wife, Mary Potter, in 1835. She was 6 months pregnant, had a miscarriage. Years later, he married Frances Appleton. On July 9th of 1861, Frances Appleton's dress had caught fire, and the next day, as a result of her burns, she had died. Henry himself had suffered severe burns and was unable to attend his wife's funeral. Their oldest son, Charles Appleton, had been severely wounded as a Union soldier in the Civil War. He rushed to his side to be with his son, and as he was sitting there just reflecting about his life, about the loss of his first wife and his child, his second wife, and now his son in great injury, he wrote these words. I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play. And wild and sweet the words repeat of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Till, ringing, singing on its way, the world revolved from night to day. A voice of chime, a chant sublime, of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said. For hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then the bells rang more loud and deep, God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men. You may not have peace in your heart today, but it would be my prayer that as time goes by, you'll be able to have that. Please know that we hurt with you, that our tears really do mingle with yours. Now, would you please join me and the Moore Fire Department Honor Guard as they ring the bell 25 times to honor those who lost their lives in the tornado. You may be seated. With such a disaster as this, there's no way one person can deal with all that has to be done. It takes the police doing what they do, the fire department doing what they do, emergency managers, communication personnel, nurses, doctors, all doing what they were trained to do. On May 20th, 2013, the people of Moore and the state of Oklahoma lived out Matthew 22:39. Love your neighbor as yourself. To all who came here that day and gave of their time, of their finances, and sent their prayers, we want to say thank you. Over the past 2 years, I've had the privilege of serving with my fellow councilmen, Robert Krause, Jason Blair, Scott Singer, Terry Kavner, David Roberts, and our city manager, Steve Eddy. Every organization has a leader, and we, the people of Moore, have had the privilege of working side by side with our leader, Mayor Glenn Lewis. Mayor Lewis has been at the helm of this ship for over 20 years. Under his leadership, he has navigated many storms and rough seas. Would you please join me in welcoming the Mayor of the City of Moore, Glenn Lewis.
Thank you, Mark. I just want to say thanks for everybody for coming out today. This is a time of remembrance, and I have a lot to be thankful for and a lot of people to remember. And I want to start off by saying thank you to everybody, because I know when I start this, I'll forget somebody. And I just want to thank you all for helping. You actually all know who you are anyway. So I just want to say thank you to Norman Regional Hospital for this day. This is an exciting event for us. We have a new hospital coming. They tell me it's going to be the Devon Tower of Moore. It's 5 stories tall, so we're very excited about this. You don't realize what a sense of security it is to have a hospital in your city. It actually does relieve you of anxieties, knowing that there is a place to take your loved ones if something is hurt or if they're sick, or if you get sick. And it's very comforting to know that these guys are quite professional and very good at their job, and we appreciate them. We appreciate the people that pick us up too. You guys do a great job, and I appreciate you. Today, I just want to start off. We opened up 2 new parks, and we rebuilt 2 new parks in the last 2 weeks. And when we started out with those parks, we went through and we had a talk, and we started out by talking about my team. And I tell you that I'm the mayor of the greatest city in the world. The people in Moore allow us to do fantastic things, and I just appreciate them so much for that. I have the greatest city council in the world. I tell people that everywhere I go. My firemen, my police officers, emergency management, the best in the world. We try to make sure they have the best equipment. Our emergency manager director, he's here. Appreciate the job you guys do. You saved hundreds, if not thousands, of lives that day, and we appreciate you so much. All of the first responders, there were so many people who became first responders that day, and to see the faces of people. When I came up and I saw this hospital gone, there's no telling what my face looked like. I was devastated, and it was literally a few minutes after it happened. And I'm thinking, oh no, this is bad. This is going to be real bad for the city, because there was so many people hurt and no place to go. And one of the things you never forget, of course, is the people. We didn't know how many people we were looking for that day when we first got out here. We knew that we had a report that there was over 300 people missing when we first started looking. There wasn't any paperwork into school, and there wasn't any houses for people to go to from the school. So we didn't really know where to start, and it was new for us. And we did make mistakes, and we're going to make sure we never make those mistakes again. We hope that this will never happen, but we know more than likely this is Moore, Oklahoma. We're probably going to have another tornado someday. So we hope that you will take time to teach your children about safety and build them a storm shelter at your house, if nothing else. We hope the school continues to go ahead and build storm shelters throughout all the schools. We want that to happen. We want a storm shelter at every business in every place in town that people can get in and be safe. So we're thankful for that. We're thankful for the Red Cross, their donation of $3.5 million, and that allowed us to build over 2,000 storm shelters so far this year. We're just thankful for all the agencies, the churches. The churches pitched in, and they actually made the meals, and we had volunteers from Red Cross and people that went out and delivered thousands upon thousands of meals to people. We want to thank the University of Oklahoma, who opened up their doors to over 250 families for dorm rooms down there, and that was amazing. They call this the Oklahoma Spirit, but I think it might be more than that here. People come together, and you have an opportunity, to be on that team, to see a part of it, and to grow and become affected by it personally. There's so much stuff out there that you as an individual can do. You can donate your time, you can donate your money, you can go to your next door neighbors and pick up trash out of his yard. I don't care what it is, but be a part of the community. Continue to make this community the best in the world. And I just thank God, that we're here today, that we're building back a new hospital, and we still want to remember those people that died that day. We don't ever want to forget them either. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over, because you're not here to hear me speak, but I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Mayor. Immediately after the tornado, people jumped into action. We saw neighbors helping neighbors, fellow Oklahomans helping fellow Oklahomans, and friends nationwide stepped up to help those in need. As the mayor so clearly expressed, it's nearly impossible to thank everyone who participated in the help and the relief. The relief and rebuilding progress was also made possible thanks to the tireless efforts of our local and our state leaders. One of the leaders who really spearheaded the recovery process has been Oklahoma Mayor Governor Mary Fallin. Aside from being the first woman to be elected governor of Oklahoma, Governor Fallin was one of the first individuals who arrived on the scene in Moore last May when the deadly tornado tore through our community, devastating our town. She was here day in, day out, meeting with the first responders, meeting with people who lost their homes and their loved ones to comfort them and ensure that the state was doing everything in its power to make sure that we were taken care of. The governor was also on the front lines when it came to getting funding for victims' losses. In addition to tapping the Rainy Day Fund for $40 million, the governor also started OK Strong Disaster Relief Fund, which has raised over $4.6 million in donations and pledges to date. So it is now my distinct honor to introduce and welcome the governor of the state of Oklahoma, Mary Fallin.
Thank you very much. David, thank you very much for that very kind introduction, and thank you for your continued service, the Norman Regional Health Systems, and all that you do for the state of Oklahoma. You know, it was 1 year ago today that a moment in time in Oklahoma's history that it just literally took our breath away to see the devastation across the city of Moore, across the state of Oklahoma, to witness the loss of life, the loss of property, the loss of memories of so many of our Oklahomans. And today it's important that we do remember, that we reflect, that we not forget that there are still Oklahomans that are recovering, that are healing, that are suffering today. And it's also important that we stand by them, that we let them know that we have not forgotten them and the tragedy that occurred in this city. But across the country, and I think even around the world, people witness the resilience, the determination, the courage, the strength, the love, the compassion of our fellow Oklahomans, and how we come together in a great time of need, neighbor helping neighbor, doing what it takes to get the job done, not waiting on someone else to come here to help us, but pulling ourselves up by the bootstraps and just getting to work. And there have been a lot of people who have asked, can this city recover? Can our people recover? But we already know the answer to that question. And the answer to that question is yes. We will recover. Yes, we will rebuild. And yes, we're going to grow even stronger. And we've already seen that strength and that resilience of this community and our people who live in the state of Oklahoma. There have been so many individuals, so many groups who have gone above and beyond the call of duty to help us during this recovery process. And while we witness the destruction, while we witness the loss of life, and we mourn that, we also have witnessed the determination, the strength and resilience, and the spirit and the heart of soul of Oklahoma. And I want to start out by, first of all, recognizing those who were on the scene immediately after the tornado came through this area. Our first responders, many of you are sitting here in the audience today. Our first responders in the state of Oklahoma were here on the site. They went without sleep for days. They worked countless hours, putting their own lives at risk, going door to door, bringing up the rubble at the Plaza Tower schools, Briarwood Elementary, the buildings, the facilities, the hospital here on this site, to look for any survivors, to help in the rescue and the recovery effort. And to them, we could never say the amount of gratitude that we have in our heart for your sacrifice, for your love and your compassion. And I want to especially thank our fire department, our police department, Fire Chief Gary Bird, Police Chief Jerry Stillings, for all of you who performed such heroic actions that terrible day. And even Cleveland County Sheriff Joe Lester, I want to thank him and the Sheriff's Department for all that they did. And to the mayor of Moore, Oklahoma, Glenn Lewis. Glenn is a model of leadership, of city leadership in a time of challenge, time of difficulty. He has stepped up time and time again in this community to lead, and we are very grateful to have a great leader in Mayor Lewis. Mayor, thank you for your great service to our state. Congressman Tom Cole, you were here on the site also, doing whatever it took to help us get the federal resources that Oklahoma needed during that time and to make sure they arrived promptly. Thank you for your great service to our country and also to this district. And I also want to recognize our elected officials who are sitting here with us today, to our representatives, our senators, Commissioner of our Insurance Department, John Doak, and all your employees for your service, to the legislature who quickly appropriated $40 million from our rainy day savings account, which is what it's intended to be for a rainy day in our state, and certainly that was one of those most tragic days. Thank you for your quick action to get money to this community and to help us get back on our feet. We appreciate you. Commissioner Doak, thank you for your Insurance Department's service here. I saw the strength and leadership in our school personnel, from the superintendent of schools to the principals to our teachers who use their own bodies as a shield to help save children, to help protect children. Our teachers are our heroes. Those at the Plaza Tower especially. We appreciate our teachers at Briarwood and Plaza Towers. We saw the strength in our community through MSTAT, IMSA, Midwest Regional paramedics who were on the scene. I can still remember being over at the Warren Theater and utilizing that facility as injured people were being brought to the facility because the hospital was gone, and how we had an impromptu triage center that was set up with so many patients moving in and out and quickly and being diverted to other facilities. I saw the strength in our families who took in fellow neighbors who had just lost their homes, families who were climbing out of the storm shelters and went out straight from the storm shelter to go look into another family's home or run down to the school to see what they could do, even though they just lost their own home. The strength of our families who lost everything. I saw the strength in our state through our charities, to our businesses, our organizations, our nonprofits, our faith organizations, our churches who came together in a great time of need to give so much, whether it was money, time, volunteer hours, food, water, triage, furniture, clothing, cars. I mean, it was just incredible, the amount of generosity. I saw the tremendous strength of our state in our media, our meteorologists, our National Weather Service, those who helped us get the message out about what was getting ready to happen in Oklahoma, what did happen in Oklahoma, and what followed after that time. We owe a great deal of gratitude for those in the media who helped us during such a very tragic time to deal with all the different challenges that we had. Our Office of Emergency Management, I see our director here, Albert Ashwood, and his staff. Albert, thank you for your many long hours of coordination of service for our state. I can still remember being in the Emergency Command Center within the first few minutes after the storm hit the ground, and how hard your team and all the charities in the room and all the state agencies and the federal agencies that work in our Emergency Command Center were busy at that very moment, working so very hard. I also saw our Adjutant General from our National Guard, General Miles Deering, who came out immediately with the National Guard to help us with the I-35 corridor and the cars and the trucks that were along that, the Department of Transportation, the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. I mean, just to mention a few of the men and women that came out immediately and were on site in the wake of the terrible tragedy. And of course, there are so many people that we could mention that helped, that were a symbol of strength. But the one thing we're here to celebrate also today is the commitment of the Moore Medical Center to rebuild in this community. Just as the mayor said, it's important to have a medical facility in a community. We saw it that day, how important it was. And to think that the medical center was struck and their own personnel in that center made sure that no life was lost is quite remarkable after that facility took such a huge hit. And then to see the commitment to rebuild this hospital, a $29 million hospital that'll be opened in the fall of 2016. They didn't abandon this community. They're back, and they're going to rebuild it even bigger and better and serve this community. We appreciate that. There are so many heroes in this audience, and I could name people throughout this whole community, throughout this whole state that have done so much. But what makes me so proud is that we are a determined people, a people of love and compassion, of faith, of prayer, of resilience. We are Oklahoma strong. And that's what not only did we see within ourselves, but the whole nation saw it and the whole world saw it. And for that, I am very proud today to be an Oklahoman. And as we finish this day up, let us not forget those that have lost their loved ones, to remember them in prayer, to remember them in our thoughts, to remember there are still many families that are recovering during this very difficult time, and we'll continue to give of our generosity and our volunteer hours to help this community move forward. God bless you, Mayor, and your community, and all the people here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. I'm really excited about this next introduction. I get to introduce our guy. This is the guy who took care of us in D.C. immediately after the tornado. He made sure that the people on the Hill and in the Capitol knew what was going on in his city. So please join me in welcoming U.S. Representative Tom Cole, our guy.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, I always liked serving with Governor Fallon, but I never liked following her. She's a pretty tough act to follow. But I have to say, Governor, I had the great privilege of serving with you in the legislature. We served together in the Keating cabinet during the dark days of the Oklahoma City bombing, served together in Congress, worked side by side to try to advance the interests of our state. I don't think I've ever been prouder of you than I was 1 year ago today. And I'm so appreciative of your leadership. I tell you, I saw her so much here, I joked with her, when Lewis finally got done being mayor, maybe she'd like to come down here, because she'd already knocked every door in town, tried to help people. And she did, and this community will never forget you, Governor, for being here. Mr. Mayor, I have to say, no wonder you're good at this. This is the 5th time you've done it. You're pretty well practiced. But do we have the best mayor in America, or what? When you've got a tough day and you've got a crisis, you want Glenn Lewis and you want Steve Eady and you want the leadership team they've assembled, and you want the kind of men and women that work at our police department, our fire department. You want those people because they've got your back, and they come and they help and they get the job done, and then they just magically disappear. They're just amazing. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. This town owes you more than it could ever possibly repay you. And David, I have to tell you, when that hospital got built, we all know it got in financial problems. The first people to help us were people at Norman Regional that came in and rescued the facility financially for us so we could have that facility here in Moore. And then when it got blown away, I know some people wondered, well, gosh, will they rebuild? Because they're just not too far down the road from us. And the fact that you and your leadership team have made the commitment to this community and have come back and are building a new medical center for us here, it just means everything. And it just really tells folks how deeply committed you are to this community and what an integral part you've been here ever since you've arrived. So just thank you very much for that. You know, there's one other group of people that need to be thanked, and they're not represented. And, you know, sometimes we forget about them a little bit. But the federal government was here. And they were here very big time, in a very big way, on the very day that we needed them. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to call then Secretary Napolitano. She's now President Napolitano out at the University of California system. And, she was a little startled, I think, to get the call. And she said, well, Congressman, why are you calling? I said, because I want to say thanks. I want you to know we don't forget who helped us. And later today, after the ceremony, I've got a scheduled call with FEMA Director Fugate, because he was down here as her deputy. She then followed. We've had wonderful follow-on help from HUD, the people with Secretary Donovan, and particularly the local branch here in Moore in rebuilding this community, from the Department of Education with Secretary Duncan, and it's just been a wonderful effort. And I want to personally thank the President of the United States. He was here on the ground 6 days after the disaster. He committed, I know, to the governor and to me, the night of the disaster, we will be with you every step of the way. And the President of the United States has kept that commitment. They have been with us every step of the way. And when the President came into town, I have to tell you, the governor and Director Fugate and I met him, and we all came in together, and we came through some of the most devastated parts of the city, and there were a lot of people out. And, that's first presidential visit ever to Moore, Oklahoma. Now, I don't want to have to go through that to get a second visit, but that was a pretty big day. But there were a lot of people out. They were taking pictures, some of them waving little American flags, and they were waving at the president. And the president was pretty startled by all this. He said, Tom, I'm pretty surprised to see all these people out here that, this is a disaster situation, and yet here they are, a lot of them to say hi and welcome me, and it says, I'm pretty amazed. And I said, Mr. President, don't be amazed. This is a place where you've never gotten a lot of votes, but you've always had a lot of friends. And he laughed. He took it in very good humor. But you think about that. He came to a state where he didn't carry a county in either of his two elections, and he was on ground, because that's what Americans do. That's just what we do for one another. When our back is against the wall and we're in trouble, we go help. When Governor Fallon was running for her first term, she had a phrase she liked to use a little bit, which I thought was a wonderful phrase, and she talked about Oklahoma as being a place of faith and family and friends and freedom. And boy, if that is true, you never saw it like you did 1 year ago today. Now, if you're from Moore, Oklahoma, wherever you're at and whatever you're doing today, I promise you're having a better day than you had a year ago. Because if you were on ground, you were dealing with a horrific situation. And if you were any distance away, you were wondering about your family and your friends and your community, and could they get through this, and how could you get back there right away to them. But those very principles that the governor laid out and talked about all came into play. This is a place of faith. And yes, we all have faith in someone and something higher than ourselves. Call them different names, but we have faith that being, that God was here with us during the tragedy and is with us here today. We've always believed that in this community. And yes, we are a place of family. This is a community of families. It hangs together. They look after one another. They help one another across the generations. And when you're in trouble, it's your family that comes to you first. And we saw that time and time and time again, not just during the disaster, but in the days and the weeks after disasters. Families around here hang together. They stick together and they look after their own. It's also a place of friends, just like my friend the governor mentioned. And your friends are the ones that are with you when the times are the toughest. And we had a lot of people that were friends that day. People that had never met one another before, but were friends. And are now lifelong friends because of the ordeal that they went through together. It's bound us closer together. It's brought us closer together. But yeah, we're a place of freedom too. And we are a place that believes individuals make their own decisions, that governments make choices according to those decisions that people make. And look, we will govern ourselves and run ourselves and pull ourselves back together. But all those qualities which are in this community, and which, as our governor points out, define our state, define our country too. That's who we are. That's who Americans are. Americans come together in times of crisis like this. And so when we talk about the Oklahoma standard, we're talking about the American standard. And that's true whether it's the Oklahoma City bombing, or it's 9/11, or it's some weather-related disaster like we went through here. We stick together as a people. So I want to tell you how proud I am of this community and the people that dealt with that awful situation. I remember in the Oklahoma City bombing, at one of the really dark moments, I was talking to Governor Keating. I was his Secretary of State, and I said, Governor, we're so lucky we have you here today to speak for us. And he looked at me and he said, Tom, if we didn't have a whole lot of people like Mayor Norick and like the Oklahoma City Police and the Oklahoma City Fire Department and our National Guard and just our men and women that help one another, I wouldn't be speaking for Oklahoma, I'd be explaining for Oklahoma. So any public leader that has had the good fortune to represent Oklahoma, if you can call it good fortune, in a time of disaster, looks good because the people of this state and certainly the people of this community perform the way you would hope other people would in similar circumstances. I just want to end by telling you how proud I am of each and every one of you. Those of you that have formal roles in our police and our fire and our city government, those of you who are just friends and neighbors who reached out to help other friends and neighbors, those of you who are here to kind of tell the rest of the world and the rest of the country and certainly our fellow Oklahomans that we're going to be back, and we are back, and we're bigger and we're stronger and we're better, because that's what we do in Moore, Oklahoma. So God bless you. God bless your families. God bless the wonderful state of Oklahoma. And God bless the United States of America that we're all privileged to be part of. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Cole. Your tireless efforts for our city and your home, we'll remember that always. I just want to take one quick second and just a special thank you. The rebuilding efforts have been incredible, what we've seen so far, and a lot of that has to do with the employees of the city of Moore. You guys have been incredible. I know your real work is still continuing as we go through this rebuilding process, and I want to salute you because you have made it easier to get back in business and get the daily activities of life going again, and the progress that we've seen is attributable to your commitment and dedication, and I appreciate that. The community of Moore is a very, very important part of what we, Norman Regional Health System, is as a healthcare provider. We knew immediately on that afternoon of May the 20th that we needed to be back over here as quickly as possible. And I'll tell you a little story. By 10 p.m. on May the 20th a year ago, we had the relocation plan worked up. May have been on a paper towel or a napkin, but we had it drawn up of where we were going to relocate our physician practices and have them back up as quickly as possible. Some of them were back in business 3 to 4 days later. Within 2 weeks, they were all actively relocated and seeing patients and never lost contact. It's one of the most sacred parts of healthcare is that relationship between a patient and their physician, and we realized that was the first thing we needed to do. We haven't been sitting on our thumb the last year. We've been planning. You're going to see the results of that planning today at the groundbreaking, and I'd like to introduce Richie Splitt. Richie is the Vice President, Chief Administrative Officer for Moore Medical Center and the Healthplex. Richie was on the first day of his second week. So he had been gainfully employed 6 days when half of his job got wiped out. Richie's taken on the yeoman's task. He's led us through the planning process, working with our board, who's been very instrumental in getting us to this point today. So I'd like to introduce Richie Splitt. He's going to tell you what he's been doing the last 12 months. Richie?
Well, good morning, and thank you all again for your attendance today. It's a little like driving down I-35 without a windshield and smiling the entire time, but we thank you for being here. It is each of you that makes this place and this town more strong, and it is each of you that makes this moment more special. Before I begin, I'd like to draw your attention to a theme that will be repeated throughout my remarks. Whenever you hear the word Moore, M-O-R-E, I'd like you to think of this community, Moore, Oklahoma, M-O-O-R-E. I've already mentioned more strong and more special, and today you will also hear about more caring, more healthy, more healing, and more beautiful. As David mentioned, 1 year ago today, I was just starting my second week with Norman Regional. I was making new acquaintances that quickly became lifelong friends. I was learning my way around facilities that quickly became lifelong memories. And in the midst of all the destruction and chaos of May 20th, I learned all about the character of this fine organization and my hometown. Like you, I could not have been more proud of the courage and selfless caring exhibited by Moore Medical Center employees and our community at large. On that day, I saw the true importance of faith, family, and friends. I witnessed firsthand heroes in action. Heroes from Moore Medical Center. Heroes from our fire, police, and emergency responders. Heroes from our friends, our neighbors, and our teachers. I was personally transformed by these heroes and their actions, and so too was our community. On that day, 1 year ago, through the devastation and fear, this community turned to its hospital for confidence and caring, and they found it. Unfortunately, what they sought that day was not found inside our hospital, for that hospital had been destroyed. What they found instead was more confidence and more caring in the hearts and the hands of so many of our physicians, nurses, and support staff just a few yards away in the makeshift medical triage center at Warren Theater. It was then that we, Norman Regional Health System, we knew now more than ever our role in this community could not be minimized. We knew that our role as the trusted healthcare provider was always important. But on that day, and in so many ways, our role became so much more evident, and our commitment to rebuild so much more important. Almost immediately, we announced our plans to rebuild a new facility on the site where Moore Medical Center once stood. In the days following the tornado, we immediately relocated and reestablished physician offices. And within 1 week, most were treating their patients in their new temporary locations. And as David said, within 2 weeks, all were seeing those patients. And every one of our Moore Medical Center employees were integrated into our Porter campus and into the HealthPlex campus. And many of them were providing tireless hours, volunteering in the health clinics established throughout our community. Yes, indeed, though extremely important before May 20th, our work was somehow more meaningful, and we were providing more care in ways and in places that we never imagined. An obvious and immediate need within the community was emergency services, so we made restoring emergency care a top priority. On December 2nd, 2013, we opened our temporary and full-service emergency department on the site of the former Moore Medical Center, and I'm happy to report after 5 months of being opened, we have cared for more than 6,000 patients in that facility. And later this week, we will provide even more access to convenient, quality health care when we open our physical therapy department in the building just to your left. Yet another sign of even more progress. In planning for the future, we knew we had to account for the changing face of healthcare, and healthcare is changing. And we knew our vision for quality healthcare and more required your continued support. As a result, we sought input from community leaders regarding what they would like to see return to their Moore Medical Center. We also engaged our physicians and staff, and we opened an online survey for all the community at large to participate. And based on the wants and needs identified throughout that process, we developed a comprehensive plan for Phase 1 of the new Moore Medical Center, the new and exceptionally modern Moore Medical Center, which brings us to this extraordinary place and time today. Our new facility, your new facility, will be a state-of-the-art $29 million structure designed to serve your current needs, and it will allow for the future growth of this community and our ability to care for you. This iconic building will not only transform our landscape, it will transform the health of future generations. The new Moore Medical will serve to make us more healthy through the caring hearts and hands of our physicians and staff. Additionally, the new facility has been designed with safety in mind and will be constructed using modern-day safety features, and it will include a tornado safe room for both patients and staff to use during inclement weather. Services planned for that new facility will include 24-hour emergency room services, comprehensive diagnostic imaging, MRI, CT, X-ray, ultrasound, physical therapy services, lab services, physician offices, and a highly sought-after community education and conference space. In addition, an inspirational tribute is planned to honor the courage and caring that took place a year ago, and more importantly, to inspire hope and healing for our future. In fact, just this morning we released the call to artists to begin the submission process for the project we are calling Art for Healing. With the help of the Norman Regional Foundation, Moore Medical's Art for Healing project will be a major work of art created for all to enjoy both inside and outside the building. Both will serve to create a more meaningful place, a significant and familiar spot that is more healthy and more beautiful. And this brings us round to the place where we started, more strong and more special. We gather here today to remember those who were lost, as well as the courage and the caring demonstrated by so many in our community just one short year ago. We also gather to formally initiate the renewal and rebuilding of an important structure, the new Moore Medical Center. We will be constructing on this site a truly magnificent building. It will be exceptionally modern and iconic. It will transform our landscape and the health of future generations. It will represent a new beginning that is more caring, more healthy, more healing, and more beautiful. That special building will be made of steel, bricks, and mortar, and yet it will serve no purpose without the caring hearts and hands of our physicians and staff. For it is those highly trained professionals with hearts as big as this great city that will make this building even more strong and more special. We were temporarily interrupted 1 year ago, but with great resolve and commitment, the physicians, staff, and volunteers of Norman Regional Health System could not be more proud to stand with you today in this place, on this day, and for this occasion. For our patients and for our community, this is where the healing begins. At this time, I'd like to introduce Susan Bean. Susan is a chaplain for Norman Regional Health System, and she is going to provide a benediction before we relocate to our groundbreaking ceremony. Susan?
We're gathered here today on a blustery, windy Oklahoma day, and our minds and spirits are tangled with memories of that life-changing day a year ago when the peaceful community of Moore was ravaged, when our hearts were jaggedly torn with the enormity of loss and the overwhelming destruction all around us. How grateful I am for God's presence with us here today and in the midst of all of our storms. Will you please stand with me now as I lead in prayer? Precious, merciful God, almighty, compassionate Father, today we've joined to commemorate the tremendous loss of precious lives, to mark the enormous significance of that day, and to focus our eyes toward a brighter future. As the wounds have been painfully deep, grant that the spirit of healing and replenishing would extend even deeper, and that continuing growth and rebirth in this community would blossom and flourish. When Moore Medical Center, the hospital that once stood on this land, on this ground, was broken and torn, our hearts were broken. Today, we have come to this place to break the ground, to tear the earth, to stir the dust. We ask that this primal Oklahoma dirt would be blessed to become a firm and sure foundation beneath the new Moore Medical Center, which will rise up from it. as that building emerges and takes shape. We ask, O Lord, that it would become once again a place of healing and a beacon of hope for this community, and would stand tall and strong for many years to come. This is my prayer of faith through Christ. Amen. Thank you so much for being here with us today to commemorate this time. And now we're going to proceed to our groundbreaking ceremony, and we invite you to join us if you're able. Thank you.